Bible is a collection of Jewish and Christian sacred writings or literature, what we call it the Holy Scriptures. It is a book, a holy book for Jewish people, holy book for Christians. But I want to share with you what is all about Bible in this my lesson. Bible is not a one book. The very word Bible comes from the Greek language called biblio, means books. So these books what we have in the Bible is a small library books. The 66 books are library books. These 66 books were written by many different authors, 40 and more. And these authors have used the ancient language, Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. And they were written at widely different times, perhaps between BC 950 to AD 100. These books contain a wide variety of literature, history, laws, legends, poems, and prayers, proverbs, and prophecy, letters, and sermons. But in spite of their diversity, there is an underlying unity running through them. For they all reveal, directly or indirectly, the one truth about God, about man, man's fall into sin, and God's divine plan to save the humanity. So therefore these books were collected and bounded together, and what we call it the Holy Bible. But as you look into the Bible, there are 66 books, and 39 of them are Old Testament books, and 27 of them are New Testament books. So today I would like to talk about how we have received these New Testament books, what we call 27 New Testament books. For that reason, we have to go back to the history of the church. Jesus Christ himself did not write any books. He did not leave any document about his teachings. All the writings, what we have received, have come from the apostles of Jesus Christ. And how did they come to us? And how we have only 27 books in the New Testament is the question that I would like to address and help you to understand. So let's go back to the church history. Jesus died on the cross, as we see in the New Testament Gospels, and he was buried. And the third day he came back to life, and then he appeared to many people. At one time 500 people, to his disciples and his half-brothers, James and the several ladies. And then after 40 days of his appearing to many people, and time has come for him to go back to his Father to prepare a place and to send the Holy Spirit upon the people. So he told his disciples, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, to the ends of the earth. But you will receive the power of the Holy Spirit. And once you receive that Holy Spirit, and you will be my witnesses, you will receive that divine power, dynamite. You will become a powerful witnesses for me throughout the world. So for that reason, disciples stayed in Jerusalem, and they all gathered together with 120 people, and they prayed for 10 days. The Holy Spirit came upon them, and they were empowered, and they became a divine, powerful people. They began speaking in tongues. They began understanding different languages. So the momentum started in Jerusalem. Church began in Jerusalem, as Jesus promised to Peter, Peter, I will build my church on this rock. And so Peter became a very prominent apostle who began church work in Jerusalem along with John and other disciples as well. So after they received the Holy Spirit, Peter became a very powerful preacher, and he began preaching to his own people in Jerusalem by mighty power of the Holy Spirit. People were spellbound to listen to his message. He challenged them. And that day, 3,000 people were added to church. Then another time, he preached the gospel. Another 5,000 people added to the church. Church began growing. It is multiplying day by day. God added every day members to the church. Church began exploding and spreading. Many Gentiles came to believe in Jesus Christ, became part of the church. Many Jewish people, even the priest class people, even the teacher of the law, many other prominent Jews became believers of Jesus Christ became part of the church. So they have many issues, they encounter many issues. By the guidance of the Holy Spirit, the church began growing rapidly and expanding throughout the Roman Empire. So within the short period of time, church went to many places. As you look into Book of Acts, and as Peter and John started the church began expanding, and Apostle Paul would be joining into the church, and then he became very powerful, very strong missionary, or taking the gospel through the Asia Minor. So he planted churches in Thessalonica, in Corinth, Ephesus, and many other provinces. Church started growing. Paul also took the gospel to the Europe city, and Philippi was the first European city where church was planted. So church began growing rapidly. And the disciples did not think of writing any document about Jesus' teachings. What he did, what he said was not important thing for them. They thought the kingdom of heaven would come during their lifetime, and so they can take the gospel to the ends of the earth. It means taking the gospel up to Rome, and then the Lord would come and establish the kingdom. But it didn't happen that way. Some of the apostles began dying, or they became martyrs, and so they thought of writing their document, what Jesus said, or what Jesus did. So they began writing. And not only they began writing, before these apostles began writing, perhaps Apostle Paul started writing his letters to different churches that he planted, addressing some of the issues, addressing some of the concerns that they had in the churches, some of them to correct them, some of them to give proper doctrine and encouraging them. So these letters already started floating in different churches, started using different churches in Asia Minor. And then the apostles like Matthew, John, and others, Mark and Luke, even though they were not apostles, they wrote their documents about Jesus Christ. So they were all, just circulating in the churches. So that was the condition of the first century, perhaps. And all these apostles died, and all the followers of Jesus Christ died. The church had new leaders and just started growing in many areas throughout Asia Minor and even in Europe. Especially church began spreading in Asia Minor and along the Mediterranean Sea and along the northern Africa. Many cities like Alexandria and then Carthage, many other cities, so many churches started growing, and people were studying to know about Jesus' teachings. So they had some information, they had some documents, they began reading and understanding. So at this time, perhaps 80, 200, 250, around that time, they didn't have any unified Bible in the churches. They were all confused. Every church has different documents or different letters of Paul or letters of other apostles and other people who have seen Jesus Christ. So that was the condition of the church at this time. And at the same time, the church also had a lot of wrong teachings came into the church. And as a matter of fact, John wrote his gospel around AD 90. By that time, church had already 30 years of experience and 30 years of growth, and wrong teachings came into the church. The number one teaching they call it Gnosticism. In other words, gnosis means knowledge. And so they began teaching in the churches, you're not saved by grace, but you will be saved by the divine knowledge. So we have some special knowledge, we want to impart that to you. So that kind of teaching crept into the church. The another one is Docetism. Another teaching came into the church. Docetism, Dios means appear to be. They began teaching Jesus did not really come into this world with the flesh and blood, but appeared to be in the flesh form. So all kinds of wrong teachings were already spreading in the churches. That's the reason John, when he wrote his gospel, and he did not write about Jesus' birth or Jesus' parables. He completely addressed different way to defend the Christian faith and defend the right doctrine and the right theology of Christianity. So all the gospel of John and his 3 letters are nothing but to saving the right theology and doctrine of the church. So we have all kinds of things there. In the midst of all that, there were some other wrong teachers came. There was a guy by name Montanus, he began teaching that we can prophesy. Every Christian have Holy Spirit, and he can prophesy, and those things will happen. Whatever he say, it will happen in the churches. So it is called Montanism, really confused in many churches in the middle of 2nd century. So all the church fathers confused, and so much of confusion. So the church fathers decided we need to tackle this matter. We need to address this issue. So for that reason, they all have gathered together. The prominent church fathers, maybe over 200 or plus, gathered together a place called Carthage in 379 AD, a prominent city. And lots of theologians came from northern Africa back then. So they all gathered together. They want to make a decision, make some resolutions to create a one Bible so that the churches can have united Bible. So for that reason, they have gathered together and they wanted to find out which one are the right, which one not right, or which are the correct documents of Jesus Christ, which were false or wrong documents of teachings of Jesus Christ, or which one is divine revelation of God, which one or not. So this was the question they had in front of them. So in order to decide that, they have brought up a word which is in Greek called canon, means a measuring rod or a standard. So that is the word that used. So let us bring all these documents, all these different documents, different literature floating all over the churches. Let us apply that against this canon, against this standard, against this measurement. If they fall in that, then we can accept those books as a divine revelation of God. So they have put up these two rules. Number one is any document that was written by the apostles of Jesus Christ, in other words, those who walk with Jesus, those who have witnessed Jesus' teachings and heard Jesus' teachings, personally, whatever they wrote, we can accept them. The other one is they have used amanuensis, means, this is the word, any secretary of a disciple of Jesus Christ, or anybody who has taken the dictation of an apostle, we can accept that. So taking these conditions, these two rules, they began applying all the documents that were there in front of them. So when they put Matthew, no issue. Matthew was a disciple of Jesus Christ, and he has seen Jesus. He was with him. Whatever Jesus did, whatever Jesus said was very true. So they have accepted Matthew's gospel without much issue. When they come to John, John wrote his gospel much later, but John was a close disciple of Jesus Christ. And so his gospel and his 3 letters were accepted without any problem. So when they came to Mark, call it John Mark, and then Luke, these two they have discussed. John Mark was not a disciple of Jesus Christ. He worked with Paul, and then he deserted in the middle of his missionary journey. Then he joined Barnabas, his uncle, and so his ministry was all over the places. He became an associate of Paul, associate of Barnabas, and then he became an interpreter for Apostle Peter. So he was very close to Peter, and when Peter was addressing his lectures, his messages in Rome, and John Mark has 2 names. Latin name is Marcus, means hammer, and Johannan means John. It is a Jewish name. So he was very much used by Apostle Peter to interpret his messages. So they have taken all his document, whatever John Mark wrote about the teachings of Apostle Peter, that became the Mark's gospel. So they have accepted that without any problem as such. So when they came to Luke's gospel, that was very difficult. So Luke was not a disciple of Jesus Christ, nor a Jewish person. So they began checking about his association. Luke was so much motivated by the church expansion. Being a Gentile, a physician, he joined Apostle Paul, and Paul many times he'll be writing that my dear physician Luke is with me. So all information what Luke has received was from Paul, Apostle Paul. So they have accepted his writing. The two books he wrote, one is Gospel according to Luke, other one is Acts of the Apostles. So there's an accepted. So the rest of the literature, rest of the documents, letters of Paul, wrote 13 of them. Hebrew was a question, so they dedicated that to Apostle Paul. And so then Revelation was not an issue. It's already been accepted by the church fathers. So with all that, all these 27 books were accepted. Then they said, now they made a resolution, and further it was resolved that nothing should be read in church under the name of the divine scriptures. After they concluded the 27 books what we have now, and they put a seal and they said no other books can be read in the churches. All other books need to be thrown out. So they said, no, nothing should be read in church under the name of the divine scriptures except the canonical writings. These canonized 27 books. The canonical writings are these: the four Gospels, those are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the one book of the Acts of the Apostle, the 13 epistles of Paul, one epistle to the Hebrews by the author is unknown, by the same author. They dedicated, ascribed this book to Paul because they were not sure who wrote that. The two of the epistles of Peter, and three letters of John, one of James, one of Jude. John's Apocalypse means the Revelation. These were 27 books canonized, and these are canonical books. There's seal on them. No other books, neither Docetism, neither Montanism, or any books should be read in the churches. They made one clause also. They also permitted they read some stories of the martyrs when they're celebrating their anniversary. This is how we have received our New Testament, 27 books which have been canonized, which have been dedicated to the churches. That's how we have that wonderful New Testament. God bless you.